Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Every man is born twice, once into the world and once into himself. The second birth is the one society never prepares you for, and it's the one every Sigma is forced to endure. Unlike others who slip neatly into roles and hierarchies, the Sigma's life is a series of strange, brutal, and often invisible stages that shape him into something most people will never understand. Psychologists say humans pass through predictable milestones, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, but Sigmas rewrite that script entirely. Their stages aren't about birthdays or promotions, they're about fractures, disappearances, awakenings, and the quiet revolutions that no one sees coming. And here's the twist. Most people think Sigmas just choose to be different, when in truth, the stages choose them. It's like being dragged into a role you never auditioned for, but somehow ending up playing it better than anyone else. Imagine being the kid who never signs up for the school play, but still steals the spotlight because the audience can't take their eyes off you. That's the Sigma life, in all its chaos and irony. Today, we're breaking down the 12 unexpected stages every Sigma goes through. Stages that are raw, unpredictable, and nothing like the tired stereotypes you've been fed. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't theory. It's reality dressed in brutal honesty. Number 1, the legacy shift. The legacy shift is one of the strangest and most unexpected stages a Sigma goes through because it creeps up quietly. For years, he lives in rejection of everything, systems, approval, expectations. He builds his life by subtraction, stripping away what doesn't fit until he's left with something sharp, unshakable, and unapologetically his. But then something shifts. The urge to prove himself, the hunger to be recognized, even the thrill of being underestimated. None of it matters anymore. What takes over is the question of what remains after him. It's not about ego. It's not about statues, applause, or followers. It's about impact that outlives noise. By this stage, he's seen enough cycles of hype to know fame is disposable. He's watched people who were untouchable become irrelevant in a decade. He's seen powerhouses crumble, influencers vanish, reputations rot overnight. So he stops chasing relevance and starts building permanence. For some, it's a body of work, books, art, businesses, inventions. For others, it's systems of thinking, philosophies, or even the way they trained people around them to think sharper and freer. The Sigma's legacy is rarely flashy, but it's the kind that resurfaces years later, when people say, "That's where it started." There's also a brutal honesty in this stage. He accepts he won't be around forever. That acceptance doesn't make him sentimental, it makes him precise. He wastes less time on people who drain him, on conversations that go nowhere, on achievements that only look good online. Instead, he leans into depth. He knows he's no longer in the business of proving he's different. He's in the business of leaving behind proof that being different mattered. What makes this stage so intriguing is that it flips the stereotype of the Sigma as a detached loner. At his core, he still values solitude, but his solitude now serves something bigger than himself. He wants his existence to echo even in silence, and he knows the echo will not come from shouting while alive, but from building something so unshakable that even after he's gone, the world still feels his fingerprints. This is the legacy shift, the quiet, calculated turn from living for today to shaping forever. Number 2, the mask-building era. The mask-building era is one of the most misunderstood phases in a Sigma's life. People on the outside think he's trying to fit in or mimic others, but that couldn't be further from the truth. This stage isn't about surrender, it's about strategy. The Sigma realizes early on that being fully raw, fully himself makes people uneasy. His blunt honesty, his refusal to play social theater, his piercing way of seeing through people, it all unsettles the world around him. So instead of dulling his edges, he learns how to cover them, not permanently, but selectively. The mask isn't a costume he enjoys wearing. It's a shield that buys him time, space, and access. In certain rooms, he'll smile at the right moment, nod at the right cue, laugh lightly at the jokes he doesn't find funny. Not because he's desperate to belong, but because he's studying the room in silence. It's camouflage. A predator that knows when to stay still isn't weak, it's calculating. The Sigma's masks work the same way. He can be the agreeable coworker, the laid-back friend, the harmless stranger. But underneath, he's still measuring, still watching, still waiting. This stage also reveals his genius for adaptation. Most people either submit fully to social pressure or rebel loudly against it. The Sigma does neither. He creates decoys of himself, versions so convincing that others relax around him and reveal more than they should. That's where his power grows. People underestimate him because the mask is so effective. They assume he's harmless, maybe even clueless, while he's actually logging their weaknesses, their motives, and their blind spots. Over time, the mask becomes second nature. He can slip it on and off without effort, and that unnerves people who catch a glimpse of what's underneath. That sudden flash of intensity behind the disguise makes them realize the version they knew was just a carefully constructed surface. The Sigma never hides forever. He hides just long enough for people to show their cards before he reveals his own. And when he finally removes the mask, it's not for acceptance, it's for dominance. Number 3, the ruthless deconstruction. The ruthless deconstruction stage is brutal because it doesn't happen with a smile or a smooth transition. It happens like an earthquake. One day, the Sigma looks around and realizes his life is cluttered with things that don't belong to him. Friendships that were built on convenience, jobs that feed someone else's dream, habits picked up just to appear normal, even identities he once wore to keep the peace. All of it starts to feel like dead weight. And when a Sigma senses dead weight, he doesn't politely drag it along. He cuts it loose, even if it leaves scars. To outsiders, this looks like sabotage. Friends will whisper that he's changed. Family may accuse him of being cold or selfish. Employers see him as reckless for walking away from stability. But what they can't grasp is that the Sigma isn't acting on impulse. He's acting on clarity. He knows he cannot move forward carrying falsehood strapped to his back. Every false relationship costs energy. Every false belief narrows his vision. Every false version of himself steals oxygen. So he tears it all down, even if it means standing in the rubble alone for a while. This stage also demands courage most people will never know. It's easy to keep up appearances, to stay in the job that drains you, to maintain the friendship that no longer feeds you, to keep wearing the mask that wins approval. It's much harder to rip it all away and face the silence. That silence is terrifying, but it's also the Sigma's reset button. From there, he can breathe. He can rebuild on his own terms. The ruthless deconstruction is not about destruction for destruction's sake. It's about pruning the unnecessary so that what remains can grow wild and true. And once the purge is done, the Sigma walks lighter, sharper, freer, while everyone else is still dragging corpses of falsehoods they never had the courage to bury. Number 4, the quiet rage. The quiet rage is one of the most defining but least visible stages a Sigma passes through. It's not the kind of rage people are used to. No shouting, no slammed doors, no dramatic confrontations. On the surface, he looks calm, even detached. But inside, it's volcanic. It's the slow, grinding anger that comes from years of betrayal, being underestimated, or watching people try to play him for a fool. He doesn't vent it outward, he lets it simmer until it reshapes him from within. This stage is dangerous not because he lashes out, but because of what the silence produces. That bottled intensity starts redrawing his boundaries. Things he once tolerated, manipulation, disrespect, mediocrity, become absolute no-go zones. His tolerance shrinks to zero. From this point on, he's harder to fool, harder to access, and impossible to exploit. It's not bitterness that drives this transformation, but clarity. He has seen too much, felt too much, and he knows where the cracks in human behavior hide. The rage acts like fire. It burns away the softness that once made him vulnerable, leaving only steel underneath. What unsettles people is that the Sigma doesn't warn anyone when this change happens. He doesn't announce, "I'm done." He doesn't argue his worth. He simply hardens in silence. And those who once took liberties with his patience suddenly find themselves blocked, ignored, or shut out. No explanations, no drama, just an impenetrable wall. That cold refusal to engage terrifies manipulators more than a loud confrontation ever could. The quiet rage also gifts him a kind of precision. He knows now exactly where to draw the line, exactly how far to let someone in, and exactly when to walk away. It isn't about revenge, it's about evolution. Once he emerges from this stage, he carries himself differently. People can't always explain it, but they feel it. Something in him has become untouchable. And from that point on, manipulators no longer see him as prey. They see him as a locked vault with no key. Number 5. The resource hoarding stage. The resource hoarding stage is one of the most quietly powerful phases of a Sigma's life. Unlike most people who broadcast every small achievement, the Sigma learns early that the loudest person in the room usually has the least to show. So instead of bragging, he collects. He gathers skills others dismiss as unnecessary, contacts that don't look valuable at first glance, insights most people are too distracted to notice, and money that he never flaunts. To the outside world, it looks like nothing is happening. To him, it's a silent stockpile that keeps growing. This stage is often misunderstood because people assume he's passive. They see him working in silence and think he's stagnant, when in reality, he's sharpening weapons in the dark. Every new ability, every lesson learned, every connection quietly cultivated becomes part of a hidden arsenal. By the time others realize his value, he's already operating at a level they can't compete with. His power isn't built overnight, it's the result of years of disciplined accumulation. What makes this stage extraordinary is his deliberate downplaying of wins. He doesn't broadcast his promotions, his side hustles, his investments, or his breakthroughs. He might even pretend he's doing just fine when, in truth, he's building empires behind the scenes. That humility isn't about insecurity, it's camouflage. The less people know, the less they can interfere or sabotage. When this hoarding reaches maturity, the Sigma transforms. One day he can leverage all those hidden resources at once, turning contacts into opportunities, skills into income, insights into strategies, and money into freedom. And because no one saw it coming, the impact feels like an overnight success, though it was years in the making. The resource hoarding stage is the Sigma's insurance policy against chaos. While others gamble on luck, he stacks silent advantages until he becomes untouchable. By the time people notice, it's already too late. He's sitting on a treasure pile too vast to ever be shaken. Number 6. The recognition of leverage. The recognition of leverage is the stage where a Sigma finally understands the true weight of his existence. Up until this point, he may have wrestled with the pressure to prove himself in the world's endless games, status, wealth displays, social climbing. But eventually he notices something striking. People bend, adjust, and even compromise just to have his time, his energy, or his presence. That's when it clicks. He doesn't need to compete in those games because he himself is the prize. This realization shifts everything. He no longer chases validation, titles, or approval. Instead, he measures his worth in the one resource no one can counterfeit: himself. His silence in a room becomes more powerful than someone else's speech. His decision to show up somewhere instantly raises the value of the space. His refusal to participate in nonsense makes manipulators desperate to win his attention. It's not arrogance, it's leverage, and it's earned. By this stage, he knows his presence is currency because it is scarce. He doesn't hand out access freely, and people sense it. The few who gain it recognize its weight. Conversations with him are remembered. Time spent with him feels elevated. Even his absence is noticeable. When he pulls away, people feel the loss more than they would with anyone else. That scarcity makes him untouchable. The Sigma also learns to weaponize this leverage without ever raising his voice. He can withdraw access to his time as a form of refusal. He can choose silence instead of engagement, and that silence says more than arguments ever could. He knows that when people want something from him, they'll bend their own rules to keep him involved. What makes this stage remarkable is the calm that comes with it. He doesn't need to hustle for seats at the table because he knows tables shift when he decides to sit down. He doesn't need to convince people of his worth because the demand for him already proves it. Once he grasps that his time, his presence, and his access are the real currency, the Sigma steps fully out of the rat race, because why scramble for scraps when you've already become the feast? Number 7. The observer's curse. The observer's curse is one of the heaviest stages a Sigma enters because it feels less like a choice and more like a permanent setting in his brain. By this point, his years of silence, detachment, and study have sharpened his perception to a frightening level. He doesn't just notice what people say, he notices what they don't say. The forced laugh, the overcompensating tone, the twitch in the eye when someone lies, his mind collects it all instantly, whether he wants to or not. Walking into a room for him is like walking into an X-ray machine where everyone's masks are stripped away. At first it feels like a superpower. He can predict betrayals before they happen, sense hidden agendas, and spot desperation from a mile away. But the longer it goes on, the more draining it becomes. He can't unsee what he sees. He knows when someone is pretending to be confident, but is secretly crumbling. He sees who is fishing for validation and who is desperate for approval. He picks up on lies so small, most people would brush past them. And because he notices, he can never fully relax. This curse makes relationships complicated. While others can bask in the illusion of trust or charisma, the Sigma is always clocking the cracks. Even when he wants to let his guard down, his brain keeps analyzing. It can create distance, because knowing too much about people's true motives makes it difficult to just be with them. The same radar that protects him also isolates him. Yet this stage also cements his untouchable edge. Manipulators can't play him. Fakers can't fool him. Opportunists can't sneak past him. People sense that he sees more than he says, and that unspoken awareness gives him power without effort. But the irony is, the Sigma never asked for this gift. He didn't want to be the one who sees through everything. He simply trained himself to survive. And now the skill is permanent. The observer's curse is exactly that. Half blessing, half burden. It makes him formidable, but it also ensures he can never move through the world as innocently as everyone else. Once you see behind the masks, you can never unsee them. Number 8. The brutal self-audit. The brutal self-audit is the stage that separates Sigmas from almost everyone else. While most people spend their lives defending their illusions, protecting fragile egos, or building excuses for why they haven't changed, the Sigma does the opposite. He turns the blade inward. He looks at himself without filters, without pity, without sugarcoating. It's not comfortable, it's savage. He'll call himself out for being lazy, for making poor choices, for holding on to toxic habits, for clinging to relationships that no longer serve him. Where others invent comforting stories, the Sigma dismantles his own. This process is painful because it leaves nowhere to hide. He doesn't get the relief of blaming everyone else for his failures. He doesn't let himself be lulled by fake affirmations. When he falls short, he admits it. When he's sabotaging himself, he names it. When his vision doesn't match his actions, he forces himself to bridge the gap. That honesty can feel like self-cruelty, but it's what prevents him from stagnating. While most people calcify with age, hardened in their denial, repeating the same cycles, the Sigma sharpens. Each audit cuts away more dead weight, leaving him lighter, faster, clearer. The cost of this stage is that it can make him seem harsh even to himself. People might see him as cold or overly critical, but they don't realize the same fire he uses to measure others. He burns on himself first. That's why he rarely tolerates excuses, because he refuses to tolerate them in his own life. Over time, the brutal self-audit turns into a weapon. By constantly breaking down and rebuilding himself, he avoids the trap of becoming rigid. He can reinvent, adapt, and evolve, while others cling desperately to outdated versions of who they think they are. Every cycle of self-audit makes him more dangerous because it strips him of weaknesses people could exploit. It's not pride that fuels this stage, it's survival and growth. The Sigma knows the harshest mirror is also the most liberating, and while others remain prisoners of their own delusions, he becomes free by facing his truths head-on, no matter how much they cut. Number 9. The unmasking shock. The unmasking shock is the moment when the Sigma lets a fraction of his true self slip through, and the effect is almost electric. For so long he's worn masks, carefully controlled versions of himself designed to blend in, disarm suspicion, or avoid unnecessary friction. But masks can't stay flawless forever. At some point, a flash of raw intensity breaks through, and that's when people realize they never really knew him at all. The reactions are always polarized. Some people are drawn in instantly, almost addicted to the sudden gravity of his presence. They feel the weight of his intelligence, his focus, his unshakable confidence, and it pulls them closer like a magnet. Others recoil, unsettled by the realization that the easygoing or quiet version of him was never the whole picture. To them, the glimpse feels like standing too close to fire, fascinating but dangerous. For the Sigma, both responses are useful. Those who lean in confirm that his silence and masks worked. They filtered out the shallow and the weak, leaving only those strong enough to handle his depth. Those who run confirm something too, that his true power isn't meant for everyone. In fact, he knows it would have been wasted on them anyway. What makes this stage so striking is how unintentional it often is. The Sigma doesn't unmask to impress anyone. It might happen in a heated conversation, a rare moment of vulnerability, or when someone pushes him too far. Suddenly, the calm, contained exterior gives way to the raw core, sharp, precise, and undeniably intense. In that moment, the room shifts. People see the contrast, and it leaves a mark they don't forget. The unmasking shock is proof that his camouflage has always been more than just survival. It was strategy. By hiding his full depth, he ensured that only those who could handle the truth would ever earn access to it. And when it finally surfaces, it doesn't just reveal him, it reveals everyone else too, by showing who can stand in the fire and who has to flee. Number 10. The longevity play. The longevity play is where the Sigma's patience and discipline finally pay off. While everyone else is busy sprinting, burning themselves out to be seen, noticed, or applauded, the Sigma takes the opposite approach. He doesn't rush. He doesn't compete in the endless race for instant validation. Instead, he conserves energy, stacks resources, sharpens skills, and chooses battles with precision. To outsiders, this looks like he's moving slowly, or worse, not moving at all. But the truth is, he's playing decades ahead while everyone else is obsessed with the next 5 minutes. This stage is brutal because it requires a kind of restraint most people don't have. Validation is addictive. The rush of attention, the dopamine hit of approval, it's what fuels the majority. The Sigma, however, teaches himself to go without it. That abstinence makes him resilient. He doesn't crumble when the spotlight isn't on him because he never needed it in the first place. He's not chasing recognition, he's building permanence, and permanence takes time. By pacing himself, the Sigma ensures that while others peak early and decline, he just keeps rising. Decades later, when peers are tired, predictable, and chained by the choices they made for quick gratification, the Sigma remains sharp, free, and dangerous. His patience becomes an unfair advantage. His investments, whether in skills, relationships, businesses, or ideas, compound quietly until one day they're unshakable. He has the energy and clarity others lost chasing applause. What makes the longevity play so exceptional is that it's invisible until it's too late. The world is too distracted to notice someone quietly pacing himself in the background. Then suddenly, there he is. Still strong, still relevant, still untouchable, while everyone else is worn down by years of overexertion and compromise. The Sigma doesn't win by sprinting, he wins by enduring. The long game keeps him dangerous well past the point when others have given up or calcified into mediocrity. By then, he doesn't just survive, he dominates because while they burned out, he burned steady. And that slow, relentless burn is what makes him timeless. Number 11. The outsider's advantage. The magnetism backlash is the stage where the Sigma realizes that by doing absolutely nothing to attract attention, he accidentally becomes the center of it. While everyone else bends themselves into performances, louder, shinier, more desperate for eyes, the Sigma pulls away. He stays quiet, keeps his distance, refuses to compete. That very refusal becomes magnetic. People can't help but wonder, why isn't he playing the game? What's he hiding? What does he know that we don't? This curiosity snowballs. The Sigma, who never asked for the spotlight, suddenly becomes the mystery everyone is obsessed with solving. His silence becomes more intriguing than others' speeches. His absence feels louder than their presence. Strangers project fantasies onto him. Some see danger, some see depth, some see arrogance. None of it is fully accurate, but that doesn't matter. The allure is in the not knowing. At first, this backlash feels uncomfortable. The Sigma didn't sign up to be decoded. He never wanted to be the riddle people gossip about, the quiet guy who becomes the subject of endless speculation. But over time, he learns how to turn this unwanted magnetism into leverage. If people are going to obsess, he lets them. If they're going to chase, he won't run. He'll let the distance amplify the pull. The paradox is brutal. The Sigma never seeks validation, yet he gets more of it than those who spend their lives chasing it. This unnerves the attention seekers because it proves what they secretly fear, that real power comes from indifference, not desperation. The more the Sigma withholds, the more others lean in. The less he explains himself, the more others beg for clarity. What makes this stage so fascinating is the control it gives without effort. The Sigma doesn't have to manipulate or perform. His mere refusal to play is the performance. And while he might not enjoy being turned into a myth, he understands that mystery is currency. The magnetism backlash ensures he'll always stand out, precisely because he never tried to. Number 12. The magnetism backlash. The magnetism backlash is the stage where the Sigma realizes that by doing absolutely nothing to attract attention, he accidentally becomes the center of it. While everyone else bends themselves into performances, louder, shinier, more desperate for eyes, the Sigma pulls away. He stays quiet, keeps his distance, refuses to compete. That very refusal becomes magnetic. People can't help but wonder, why isn't he playing the game? What's he hiding? What does he know that we don't? This curiosity snowballs. The Sigma, who never asked for the spotlight, suddenly becomes the mystery everyone is obsessed with solving. His silence becomes more intriguing than others' speeches. His absence feels louder than their presence. Strangers project fantasies onto him. Some see danger, some see depth, some see arrogance. None of it is fully accurate, but that doesn't matter. The allure is in the not knowing. At first, this backlash feels uncomfortable. The Sigma didn't sign up to be decoded. He never wanted to be the riddle people gossip about, the quiet guy who becomes the subject of endless speculation. But over time, he learns how to turn this unwanted magnetism into leverage. If people are going to obsess, he lets them. If they're going to chase, he won't run. He'll let the distance amplify the pull. The paradox is brutal. The Sigma never seeks validation, yet he gets more of it than those who spend their lives chasing it. This unnerves the attention seekers because it proves what they secretly fear, that real power comes from indifference, not desperation. The more the Sigma withholds, the more others lean in. The less he explains himself, the more others beg for clarity. What makes this stage so fascinating is the control it gives without effort. The Sigma doesn't have to manipulate or perform. His mere refusal to play is the performance. And while he might not enjoy being turned into a myth, he understands that mystery is currency. The magnetism backlash ensures he'll always stand out, precisely because he never tried to. Every stage of the Sigma's journey is a paradox, quiet but seismic, invisible but undeniable. From the mask-building era to the ruthless deconstruction, from the quiet rage to the recognition of leverage, each shift strips away illusions and adds layers of precision. What looks reckless to outsiders is really strategy. What looks passive is actually the gathering of force. What looks like detachment is the sharpening of vision. And as these stages unfold, the Sigma transforms into something that no system can control and no manipulator can touch. By the time he reaches the legacy shift, it's clear. His life was never about playing the game louder, but about rewriting it from the edges. His silence becomes authority. His absence becomes power. His very existence turns into leverage. Every stage leaves him lighter, sharper, and freer, while the world around him calcifies under its own delusions. This is the true story of the Sigma path, not a romanticized myth, but a raw evolution of someone who survives by refusing to conform and thrives by turning solitude into strength. And that's why, decades later, while others fade into irrelevance, the Sigma still stands, untouchable, magnetic, and unforgettable. And if this resonated with you, don't just disappear into the shadows. Support the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future breakdowns, drop a like if you value raw honesty, leave a comment to share your perspective, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Every action you take helps this community grow stronger. And trust me, what's coming next is even more powerful.